Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm super stoked and also super lucky. I get to talk to the one, the only, the Psycho Sorcerer, Joseph March. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm just over the moon that I get to do this interview with you. And, you know, we went from zero to doing this in a matter of days, which was super cool. Super, super cool. You have had sort of multiple YouTube channels and iterations and, you know, various stops and starts, and I kind of understand why.
Yeah.
Having done the same thing myself. But now I think you're on Psycho Sorcerer 2.0. Is that right?
Yeah, just for the lulz, you know, I personally was always someone who hated when people called something 2.0, but then it became funny to me to do it. And that's how it ended up called that. It's like supposed to be funny, but then it became a serious channel again. So I don't know. It's a whole thing.
It's like Web 2.0, which is really now an incredibly old concept.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha. But you're still bringing in some insights from time to time on your channel, which is really cool.
Yeah. So my original channel was for talking about different esoteric insights back at a time where there weren't a whole bunch of channels doing that.
Right.
And it was mostly at that time, a lot of people weren't showing their face. And I wanted to be one of the first ones to be like, look, I'm a normal person. Hello, that sort of thing.
Right.
Nowadays, that's not rare at all. You can go on TikTok and see witches every day that just show their real faces and talk about whatever. But back then, when I started that channel, there were very few people showing who they were on there. And so
that's true.
I saw that there was this gap where we needed somebody who wasn't like acting super spooky up there, who was just talking about it like a regular person and who you could see their face. And then I was like, instead of being frustrated that I can't find that somewhere, I was like, I could be that guy. And that's how the channel started originally.
Right.
And on that channel, I was very big on citing my sources and all this type of stuff at first, because that was another thing I felt like you didn't get in a lot of these channels, is somebody where you're like, how do I go back and look this stuff up?
Right.
And I think that's part of why the channel made it big, is because there were a lot of other people out there that were seeking, that were like, hey, this is giving me direction and things like that. And even though I was still fairly early in my craft, I wasn't somebody who's like, I know it all. It didn't matter. I was giving out information that people could then grab onto and do stuff themselves. And I think that's what made it big back then. But as I went through everything that I had known and researched, I kind of ran out of content to do there, and it turned into this blog about me. And that's the thing that has continued on into perpetuum over time since then.
And I think that's valuable. I do remember a lot of sense of humor in your videos. It was almost self-parody.
Yeah,
like it was real close, which I appreciate, because you know, these things can get terribly serious. And you're also right in that there was a lot of what I call pugs, right? There was personal unverified gnosis.
Oh yeah.
And that's, everyone was just like, I had this amazing download and I had to tell the Starseed children of the twin flames. And I'm like, I'd love to know more, but there's no sources. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that I do my blog the way I do it, is I try to like throw in a lot of source material and links out to sources, because for that very reason, because I found it so frustrating when someone would talk about something interesting. I'm like, I'd love to know more, but all I've got is this thing you said.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. Now, of course I have continued the faceless tradition.
That's fine.
In part because I had a number of people tell me, you know what? I wish like hell I had never shown my face doing this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lady who does animations, and I think she was associated with Billy Brujo. Remember that guy?
Yeah, I remember him.
I loved Billy Brujo. She was associated with him for a while, and then she was associated with Frater Xavier for a while. And I was on one of her live streams, and she told me being faceless is the smartest move that anyone can make. And I thought, I'll keep that in mind. You know,
it's definitely a result where I was at on original channel was a result of why don't people show their face? We should do that. You know, like we should make magic acceptable again. People should see us, that type of thing. Like it was like kind of like a, hey, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be fine. And then you get your comment section, man, and then you start seeing what people really think of you. And I'm like, I don't know if that was a good idea at all, but it's too late now, that sort of thing.
And
I don't hold those same views that I had when I made the channel initially now.
Right. I think you're in a vastly different place, and we'll definitely get to that.
Yeah.
I know that you even made a video back in the day where you were like, I'm tired of hiding my magical identity from like my associates, and so I'm just going to tell them, which I thought was incredibly brave, certainly, and
it's dangerous too.
It had a lot of honor to it. I was like, I mean, that's integrity.
Yeah. I had one of those moments where I was like, I'm living this life, because at that time it was like most of my family didn't know and stuff. Not my immediate, like my wife and my kid, but like my, parents, aunts, uncles didn't know. And it was like, you know what? They can find this channel. And it was blowing up at that time. I was like, they can find this channel any day. And then how are people going to feel if I never told them and it comes that way? So I was like, all right, I'm going to talk to people and tell them what's up, and, take your licks, because some people are going to think it's stupid and some people are going to think it's funny. Some people are going to think it's like blasphemy, and it really just depends person to person.
Right.
And then when I did that, most of the people I knew were so open and respectful of it. I was kind of surprised. It kind of changed the way I looked at, like, oh, unless you're in a real situation where someone is definitely going to put you in danger, it's kind of better to just be out with these things within reason. I still don't go around the office and say, hey, people at work, anybody want to come by and do a black magic ritual? That's not how we do it. But when it comes to like friends, family, people you talk to all the time, it's not like you have to make it your whole central vibe, but they should know who you are. You shouldn't feel like you have to hide it.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredibly noble. Hey, buddy, like on our break, you want to do a magic?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do a magic.
Anybody here do a magic? The thing is, the other thing is the circles I run with, they're going to be like, I got magic cards in my car. Let's go for it. And it's like, no, that's not the type of magic I'm talking about.
But okay, we can do that too.
Yeah.
We do some Pokemon-y. That's fine.
There you go.
Join you on Skype. I still love that. I still love the Skype joke.
Yeah, and that's another thing from the original channel is I had this character I was playing, Psycho Pop Sorcerer, who was like the pop culture version of me. Like, what if we all believed in like what pop culture thinks a wizard is, and like he became that thing. And then I did some parody stuff there. That was always fun. And then I went through some stuff where I took that channel down, and anybody who followed me back then went through all that drama with me, I'm sure. Where I basically was like, I don't know that everything that I'm teaching to people is good for them, without the sort of caveat that maybe you should, talk to a mental health professional before you dive into this stuff, like that type of stuff. And I kind of got freaked out. Like, I don't want to mess people up. So I pulled a lot of it down. And it's mostly, I can't blame YouTube, but some of it is YouTube, because YouTube would be like recommending my videos here and there, but not in the order where I eased people into like crazier topics. It was like, here, right into the crazy topic, right in the deep end for people.
Yeah. Here you go.
There are people like, I saw one video of you on creating servitors, and now I'm in a mental institution. I'm like, well, yeah, because you jumped right into let's create a servitor, but I have no control over what order someone sees videos in, and so
right. And then there's the other problem, which is there are people who are mentally ill and maybe on the cusp of functionality or not functionality, and then whatever it is that kind of pushes them over the line into the rubber room. And if that was your video, you're gonna feel terrible.
And then you have that question that you have to ask yourself is, how responsible am I for this? And I had people commenting to me like that, they're not your responsibility. Everybody is responsible for themselves, this and that, but it doesn't matter. Like deep down, I was like, I feel like there's a responsibility as a platform owner, make sure I'm not putting stuff out that's causing problems. So that combined with some other stuff I was going on at the time, I ended up taking the whole channel down. And then eventually I put a new channel up, which now is the Psycho Sorcerer 2.0 channel. It was originally just called Joseph March, because I just threw my name on there. But I threw it up there because a ton of people who I knew from the old channel who were fans, but who had become more than fans over the few years I was gone. They become just friends that I talked to on Messenger and things like that. Were like, hey, you should just throw some of your comedy stuff up there. We don't even need to talk about magic and stuff like that. So I brought the channel back as just Joseph March, and it was like random skits and like the silly side of me. Yeah. It became more like the real down-to-earth who I am type of channel. And then over time, I got back into magic and spirituality harder. and started talking about it on the channel again. And then the community kind of showed back up. But it's a small community now, but it's just those folks.
Right.
And so that makes it real fun. It's kind of like our own little group of people that still hung on from back in the old day. You know, like we're all like able to help each other and teach each other new stuff.
Right.
And it became more of a vlog about what I'm doing in spirituality, which recently has slowed down to like a video every 3 months because most of what I'm doing I don't want to talk about because it's personal. And then if it's something that sounds like I could share it, then it'll pop up on there. But now it's called Sorcerer 2.0, which was kind of sort of a joke when I said, like, you know, I'm going back in spirituality. So it's 2.0, like everything's 2.0. And then, but the name stuck. And so now that's the name of the channel.
Right. And, you know, I think so there's this sort of seeker portion of the spiritual life. And then there's sort of a finder, right? Where you may in fact find what you were looking for. And I've noticed that with sincere seekers that are self-examining, a lot of them tend to like dump their channels or like delete old videos because they're like, you know what? I don't see it that way anymore.
I've changed the way that I look at it now because so many people came to me after the fact. And they said something that made me feel, it gave me the warm and fuzzies, which is, hey, you got me into this stuff and it's changed my life in a good way. And I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
But then they were also like, sometimes I just want to go back and look at some of your old content because for reference, you had all of these like, here's where you find this and that. And I want to see that still. Like I'm studying for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not one of those people who's doing stuff out of order and getting crazy. Like give me your old content, you know, that type of thing. And it made me think like, yeah, I kind of ignored the people who were using it in a good way and listened to the loudest voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now I've put all that stuff back up, but here's the key. I stuck it in my playlist section and it's all unlisted videos. So if someone knows to go to my playlist section and look at the old playlist, they can find all the old videos there. They're all there.
Yeah.
But you have to know that to find them because otherwise you're not going to get them served up to you by YouTube anymore because I'm not in it to make money. I don't have ads on my videos or anything like that. So I'm just like, here's a repository for those who know. They can find them. It's easy to find. But you're not going to one-off get them handed to you anymore. And the newer videos are, you know, the normal algorithm will send them to you. But they're just me talking about whatever flavor of the day craziness is going on in my life. So
right. No, I appreciate the approach. And I think I have seen most of this firsthand. I was a watcher way back in the day.
Yep.
And you know, there were people who made videos about like Joseph March is quitting the occult.
Oh yeah, it was a thing.
It was a thing. People like really were, you know, concerned, worried, and maybe in some cases for, you know, themselves because they're like, oh, I lost access to the Tiamat video or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do think there were a lot of people who were like, oh man, you know, one of us, and oh no, he's gone and we don't know what's going on.
I also kept getting these messages from some people that would find me like on Facebook or something and be like, did you change into a Christian? And it's like, no, guys, no. I didn't get scared off of the occult and turn into a Christian and take down my channel. That's not what happened.
Right.
And I got so many of these random speculation things, or like someone would say, hey, did you see this video so-and-so made of you? Or the other one that happened was someone would be like, hey, did you see someone uploaded all the old videos of yours they had copied to a channel?
They did that.
Okay, so if I don't control it, if I don't have my own space, and if I don't come up and tell people what's happened, then the narrative just becomes whatever people want it to be. And it's like, oh my God, it's so much worse.
No, you're right. I think you've made good moves.
Yeah, it took me time to get there.
It takes us all time. That corn maze is brutal. So I'm going to kind of wind it back. Do you have any kind of personality typing thing that you want to share, like Enneagram, MBTI, you know, Myers-Briggs, human design?
I do enjoy a good personality test, but I'm not someone who gets too deep in the weeds on how those tests work. I know a lot of people, I've got some friends that I will talk to, and they could talk to you for hours about, you know, Myers-Briggs or Enneagram and all that stuff. I've only ever experienced it to the point where you take a test online and see what it says. So I don't really know that I have enough knowledge there to speak on it beyond. Every time I take Myers-Briggs, I get either INFP or ENFP, depending on how extroverted I feel that day.
Yes. I get INFP or INTP.
Yeah. There's always something I feel like for everyone that switches depending on your mood.
Yeah. And well,
For
and
me,
also,
it's am I an extrovert today or not? It's a coin flip.
that's true. For me, it's how honest I'm being with the questions, because I have this urge to answer the questions in the way that someone who is noble and nice would answer them, and then
Yeah, I could see that.
I go, oh wait, actually, I would be lying because I actually do this terrible thing that I don't want to admit on the test. But if I admit these things, I'm INTP, and if I don't, I'm INFP, which is fun.
That's why I think when businesses try to have you take a test like that, it's like useless, or it just shows them who you think would be a good person.
Right.
Because there's no way you're going to tell the truth on a business one. If they're like, do you feel lazy sometimes or motivated? You're like, obviously, I'm going to say motivated. This is on a business thing that's going to get back to my company, you know, like.
Right. I've seen those tests, and there's things on it like, your friend Joey comes to you and says, hey, I just stole like 2,500 staples from the supply room. What do you do?
Do you turn them into management immediately, or take some of the staples and sell them on the black market? And it's like, I'm pretty sure you want me to say option A for sure.
Right.
And if I don't, then I'm not getting hired. So,
but and they'll ask you the same question in almost just ever so slightly altered later in the test, just to see, like, are you sincere about the last time you were going to turn Joey in for the staples?
What if I ask it in a slightly different way?
Yeah.
Like, what if I put you as the person who stole the staples? Do you fess up and turn them in? Do you have a change of heart? You're like, dude, I wouldn't take the staples. Why is this a question?
I know. Wait, I think you took the staples, and now you're feeling guilty. Now you want to blame me. So what is your Enneagram number then? Do you know that one, or?
No, I don't remember. I did it once, but I'm usually some kind of communicator of some sort. I don't remember what the Enneagram ones are specifically, but I've taken enough of these tests where it's like you're some kind of communicator or a counselor, or some kind of type like that. But I don't remember specifically what the Enneagram one was.
Yeah,
or what they are.
So. Mine's a 9. There's 9 of them, and they're so I'm a 9. I'm a peacemaker, a mediator type person. So because I just like it chill. I like it chill. Is there anything like relevant from your childhood that you want to say kind of informed what you did later? Or
I guess you could say, like, I always have the problem where people will say, how long have you done magic, for example? Especially back when I used to be a magic channel specifically, and now I'd say I lean more into mysticism than anything else now. But when did you first do magic? And it's like, well, what are we talking about? Are we talking about when I first started understanding what these principles were and doing it like as an actual practice? Or are we talking about when I was 18 and trying stuff out of an encyclopedia of occultism that I own?
Sure.
Because like there's a totally different answer depending on which one you're talking about. Like, did I get seriously into it and trying to do it in a way that was scientific and experimental? That would be in my 30s. But if you want to say when's the first time I tried a ritual, I think I was 16. So
nice.
And that's an interesting, like, how's my childhood relate? I don't have one of those backstories like some people where they're like, I've always seen visions or I've always been this or that. It's like, no, I dabbled a little when I was a teenager, but then I always kind of was like, what's this about? You know, like, what is this?
Sure.
And eventually was like, you know what? I can try this. I can try this, like more than just reading. I was reading about it for a long time before I started doing it. It's what people nowadays would call armchair. For a very long time.
Well, yeah, and that's it's safe, and it's it keeps you from being, I guess, too involved, and there's a lot to recommend it in some ways, but you're not a real one until you step into the circle. So
yeah, I'll get people sometimes on the channel too where I'll be like, guys, I had this wild experience, and I'll start talking about it, and they're like, dude, you explained this concept to us 3 years ago. Why the hell are you so excited about it now? And it's like, no, I explained it based on reading 3 years ago, but I had the experience now, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
Or I've had a new experience that has like further enriched what that is. And it's like, I'm just trying to bring people on the journey, and people are like, dude, you already talked about this. Like, what are you like, what are you talking about?
But yeah, and you're right. And these things can kind of further dimensionalize the more you do, or if you even just start doing.
So I'll have all kinds of, like, recently, I think my last video is talking about how now I understand more why things like Golden Dawn and places like that use the elements as the naming of their grades and stuff, and how if you look at the elements from a certain kind of way, you can understand how you can't really have one of the 4 elements without the other 3. They all like interact with each other, and they're really one thing, but you're splitting them apart when they're not, type of thing. Like I had one of those moments where it was like that eureka, like real understanding of that, not just the conceptual wording of that. And I was like, wow. But then I realized, like, there's no video to make on this. Like, what am I going to say? Hey guys, did you know that the elements need each other? It's like, yeah, it's kind of obvious.
Right. And that the elements have sub-elements, which is really fun.
And that you can split them all into different pairs and all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of fun to be had with them once you start seeing kind of what beyond just the metaphor. I think earlier in I was thinking of it like fire equals will. Cool, got it. But I'm treating it like a programmer where I'm like, fire variable equals will variable. And it's like, no, you're trying to look at how everything works together. You need to look at all 4 elements at the same time, that sort of thing. And it's like I would have done a thing that's like, here's the 4 elements and explained them perfectly, and then later someone would be like, well, you already know what all 4 of them mean. It's like, yeah, but I didn't really understand it. I knew, but I didn't understand.
You can sort of say, yeah, this means that, and it's not really impactful. It's just a fact in your mind, and then suddenly it's not just a fact in your mind, and that's a whole other bucket of wax there. I actually, it's funny, I wrote out the neophyte ritual that you're supposed to do as a neophyte, the daily ritual battery. I wrote it out as like nested HTML one time. I was like, this works. This actually kind of is the same thing. It was weird. What else do you do that like dimensionalizes your life? I think you're super into tabletop games in a very big way.
Yes, so I have written my own tabletop gaming system. It's called Realms of the Ancients. It's out there on Drive-Thru RPG. People can buy it.
Rota.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's based on our own personalized rules that me and 2 of my friends came up with for gaming as we slowly changed from being regular D&D gamers to trying a whole bunch of different systems to saying, like, we really want something that does what we want it to do and kind of creating our own thing instead of just modding existing games. And I wouldn't say it's like blowing the doors off as far as like who has it and who doesn't, but some people have picked it up, and so far it's gotten good reviews from anyone who's played it, so that's good.
Nice.
I don't know that we'll ever make back what it costs to pay the artist to make all the art we made for it, but that experience was more a labor of love. Like, man, look, all our ideas are coming to life in picture form, which now anybody can do with AI. Like, they can just pop a thing in AI and have a thing come out, but we started this process of making this about 20 years ago. So, that was not the case when we started. And I don't know, this is an ethical question. I don't know if I would use AI art for a project like that because it feels like you shouldn't.
I agree.
I don't know.
I think, and it's definitely a gray area, and there's a lot to consider with it. I think for me, I would want to do my own art anyway. And I think maybe AI art is good for conceptualizing and sketching, but for an actual product, that's when I think probably not.
I'll tell you what I do use AI art for, and I think it's a great use for, is when I'm playing just with my friends, because we do a weekly role-playing game, and I'm just making a scenario. It's like, okay, well, you're going to fight some new big bad, and I need a picture of this big bad demon. He's not going in any book. He's not being sold to anyone else. This is just for our game around the table. But now, instead of just using the theater of the mind and explaining to you what I had a concept of for this crazy looking thing you got to fight, I can actually type that into the prompt and get something close, and then show a picture around the table, and everyone's like, whoa.
That's cool.
Man. And it doesn't matter if he has 12 fingers, because it's not a picture that's going to sell or that's going to go somewhere. It's just like, here's a visual aid for this situation. And I really think AI art is great for that sort of thing specifically. Or if you're going to give an idea to an artist where you're like, I'm thinking of some whacked out thing I don't know how to describe, if you can get like kind of an AI art picture, you're like, something with these features, and send it off, but then have a real person design you something more perfect.
Yeah,
I think that's a good use as well.
I
think there's space for these tools, but I don't know that you want to just like pop them right into your own products. I'm not comfortable doing that yet myself, but I'm also not necessarily comfortable yelling at someone else for doing it either. I'm just kind of on the fence on that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there is a ton of gray in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most creators, I can totally understand why they feel like it's just a big ripoff. And there are aspects of that, but then there's also this sort of idea of, well, me as an artist, I had influences too.
Mm-hmm.
And they are going to show up in my work. So how different is it? It's kind of tough.
I mean, one day we might have Bender the robot from Futurama. When that happens, you're going to just have to say it's a person,
Right.
I don't feel like we're there yet, but I've been rewatching Futurama lately, and now that AI is where it's at, that character is way more interesting. It's like I'm getting some of the jokes on a deeper level. Like, yeah, he doesn't realize he's as bad as he thinks.
Right. I like the old Macintosh judge that they had, judging the progress bar. That was
a great show.
Oh, it was a great show. Successes and setbacks along your great work path, starting at 16, I guess.
Starting at 16.
Might as well. I mean, might as well just take it back to the...
If we go back that far, I went through, I wouldn't call it a religious crisis, but I mean, I went through that period that a lot of us have gone through where you're trying to figure out what religion you want to be.
Yeah.
Where I hesitate to say I was raised Christian because I wasn't raised in a super Christian household. But my parents were Christian, if that makes sense. Like we didn't go to church every Sunday. It wasn't that kind of Christian, but they were Christians, and I just kind of like, cool, good enough for the longest time. And then I started going to church because I had some things happen in my life where I was like, man, I just was starting to seek, like we were talking about. I started going to church and I started reading the Bible. And the more I read the Bible, the more I was like, I don't gel with this. Like, I don't,
right.
Like, this is not what I actually believe. I don't know where this is, what's going on here. And so that's why people will ask me and they're like, well, you were raised Christian. I'm like, not really. Because when I finally read it, I was like, this is not my jam. This is not my thing. And I started looking elsewhere. I started being like, well, what else is there? And Buddhism is one of the things I found really fascinating. Different paganism, all that stuff. But one of the things I got obsessed with at that time was like, what is the interconnecting fabric?
Yes.
I had it in my mind that like at some point in time there was like the truth, and then it's branched into all these religions, that's kind of silly thinking, I think, now looking back at it. But I think the truth echoes through everything we create. Like, we can't help but create fact or fiction without this sort of like spark of truth being in it. And so there are these truthful elements of all the religions. And when they match, you can be like, oh, look at this. That's interesting that the same spark comes through in multiple places.
Right.
That's how I look at it now. But in the past, I was definitely like, what's the oldest one? Let's find that. Maybe that has it, like here's the origin point. And that's how I got into a lot of like mythology and stuff like that. And I still wasn't really big on magic and things at that point in my life. But eventually I did get into magic. And it was actually when I hit a point in life where I was trying to start a business of my own, which obviously is not what I still do. So I started being like, you know what? Maybe it's worth casting a spell or two and trying this out and whatever. But right. I think my main goal at that time was just like get clients or like get cash or that type of stuff. I wasn't in the like mindset I'm in now where it's about finding the true self and finding the will and that type of stuff. It was like, hey, I need money.
I heard you guys can make money up here. Let's do that. Yeah.
I heard magic can make me money. Let's try this out. Like that's how I started being like, let's try a spell or two. Let's see what happens. And then got just weird enough results that then I was like, oh, I'm fascinated by this. And it moved away from like, oh, I want to make money to being like, I just want to like consume what all of this is about.
Yeah.
And then that's when I was like, I dabbled, I would say. Yeah, I'll try a money spell. I'll try a spell for this or that. But mostly I was armchair, just reading.
Sure.
And then I got into this period of my life where I was starting to feel that good old depression hitting you. And I was like, I just need something else. And I started trying working with entities, which of course that's a dangerous road to take. But for me, it worked out. But I started experiencing something different when I started doing channeling and stuff like that, where it was like, oh, what am I learning here? And at that time, I still was like, I'm talking to a spirit. That's got to be it. But now it's like, oh, wow, I was doing some kind of deep self-therapy. Like I understand it better looking back. And that's what I absolutely needed at the time.
Yeah.
And then that would eventually lead me away from spells for things and toward magic for self-discovery as I slowly started to understand what was going on and like chase that feeling of connectedness that you start to find as you go deeper down that route.
Absolutely. I have found that the healthiest way of looking at all of that is that just think of it all as self-inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
all of it, everything, all the toys, all that stuff is just like pieces of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a way to like play with the toys out in front of you and rearrange them and go, okay, well, what does this mean to me in terms of my parts interacting? It's sort of like internal family therapy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or parts therapy where they say, oh, you got this inner protector. Let's talk to your inner protector and let's talk to your inner child. Let's talk to your inner this and that. I'm like, well, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
In many respects.
But this all eventually led me to do shadow work, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Right.
And for me, I was working with what people would call a spirit guide, I guess, in some communities. But for me, I would just say I was working with a god or an entity or whatever. And now I would look at it more as I was working with my, what do you call it, HGA or higher self, or
right.
I think you call it witness consciousness, or
yes,
yeah. But I didn't know that at the time. I saw it as like a separate entity, which I think is a perfectly fine way to do it, as long as you're being safe and you're being skeptical after the fact.
Right.
But that entity guided me through the process of shadow work, finding these things from my past that had been forgotten, experiences that I don't feel like talking about, so I won't. But
sure,
I'm sure we've all had our own demons in the past.
Absolutely.
And working through them to recognize who I am, and also things about myself that I had shoved aside because of fear back in the past and things like that. And at the end of that process, I came out and I found what I would call love, because I don't know what to call it other than that.
Okay.
But it's deeper than what you would feel for like a person. It's just like this, I guess bliss is maybe a better way to call it.
Yeah, bliss is the generally accepted term in Advaita Vedanta.
Yeah, and it used to be, I would say, before that point in life, and this was probably around 35, 36 years old. Before then, I didn't even realize this, but I think there was this overall fear in the background of everything. It wasn't that I was constantly afraid, but I mean, like, if I was making a decision, it was probably based on a fear response. And after that point, it was like a light switch got flipped from fear to love. And everything became about, what am I interested in? What do I want? What's happening? Like, what would do the most good for everyone? Things like that. And I was just like, wow, what happened? And it was because of the shadow work. It just like cleared all the garbage. And by that, I mean, it helped me figure out what I was pushing away so that I could accept it and embrace it.
Now,
and then, I was able to just see people as people and see things as the way they are situationally, and just experience life as a good thing instead of a scary thing.
Yeah, and it's sort of the Zen component of the Enlightenment path. Now, what I think is super uber interesting with you in particular, not a lot of people, and there are some people for whom this has happened, but not a lot of people just essentially ponder their way to enlightenment.
Right.
Right. Which is what you did.
Well, I had help. I think in the past I would have been egoic enough to say, yes, that's what I did. I worked with my own inner, whatever you call it, your witness consciousness, and got myself there. But the truth of the matter is, having a YouTube channel helped me in ways that I didn't know at the time, because I was teaching people stuff like, hey, here's what I know, here's what I've read about, and now at that point, I'm starting to really practice. But like, here's all this knowledge I had amassed from reading. And then people are like, that's interesting, but have you read this? And I would get comments like that. For every comment that was like, if magic's real, why are you bald? Stuff like that.
Right.
I would get a comment that was like, hey, have you looked into this book or this idea or this concept, which sends me down a direction I wouldn't have looked before. And then I'm consuming this stuff. And where's that going? It's going right into my subconscious, right into my mind. And all of this stuff is kind of gelling in a way that's going to eventually sort itself out, and which of these ideas actually work and which ones don't, as I practice different stuff. And so I think, in part, I kind of did conceptualize myself into enlightenment, but also I had a lot of people helping point the way because of the YouTube channel, because they were like, oh, look where this guy's going. Let's see if we can help him out.
True.
Or here's a thing that worked for me. And it was just like which is why I eventually made the second channel. It's just because that part of it is what I missed.
Right.
Like I didn't miss the, hey, if magic works, why you bald guy? He even if he decided to post it on every video, like, okay.
I'm gonna posit three things here. The first is, I think that the Golden Dawn work that you and I did was instrumental in moving the ball forward.
Yeah.
The second thing I'm going to posit is, I think you did a ton of internal work while world building with Realms of the Ancients.
Yeah, that's true too.
Because you did, like, I remember there's this one point where you almost like blew my mind, because you were talking about either an expansion pack or a book that you did, and it was like the infinities of the infinity, and there's so many infinities and all the infinities, and I was like, whoa, homeboy has like definitely headed out into a realm. All right.
Yeah.
So I think you did kind of work it out in a way, maybe unconsciously, in that work. And the third thing I'm going to posit is, when you are in a dualistic modality, which almost everybody is, and I've flipped back and forth. Terrence McKenna talked about the transcendental other. And so he was just saying, like, there's a transcendental other, and people just kind of put different faces on it based on what they can sort of understand or what they relate to. My personal opinion is that transcendental other that you see, whether it's Krishna or Grays or whatever, or the Holy Guardian Angel, is actually you as the witness consciousness. But from the standpoint of the apparent self, the ego construct, it has to be an other. And then you kind of cross that barrier and you become the witness consciousness, and you are truly it. And then that's when you can look at your ego construct from the inside out and start really seeing yourself.
I've been trying, when I write in my journal, to use the term reflection, because I think it's the best one. And you see this in is it in what was that book? Geez, I can't even remember now. Not the Kabbalah, the one with the it's gone. Whatever, it'll come back at some point.
Okay.
But the idea, you've seen the picture before where they have the triangles from the elements pointed but connected, and like one of them's dipping down in the water, and it's the top is the reflection of the bottom.
Right. Yeah, that's an old drawing, I think, of the wizard with his elbows out. There's one of those.
Yeah, and I like to think of that concept of like a reflection, because the idea that, especially when I'm talking about deities and things, because people are trying to understand what's a deity, what's this and that, and it's like, well, there's the eternity is what I call it, but it's the all is probably what most people would say, or the source, or whatever language they want to use. You have the eternity, and then you have reflections of it, and the different reflections of it could be what you would consider the different gods or this or that, but they aren't the eternity. When you look at one of them, it's like you're not getting the whole picture because you're only getting a reflection. But it is a reflection of the entire thing. Like, it is simultaneously the whole thing, but yet you're not seeing the whole thing, I guess would be a way to put it.
Right. And I've heard that talked about in Patanjali Yoga a lot. There's also the I that you think you are in when you're in the ego construct is also called reflected consciousness, meaning it is the same light, but in a from a slightly different perspective. So yeah, I'm totally on board with that.
Yep. And I think that I've now taken that. I used to think of that like that's explanation of the gods, end of story. And now I'm like, no, it keeps going further down. And that's also an explanation of us. Like, we are also our own different unique reflections of the all, or entity, or the eternity, whatever you want to call it. But we really aren't. We really are the eternity. Like, that witness consciousness is the eternity experiencing something. Yeah. And it's experiencing its own reflection, and that the specific reflection it's experiencing right now is us. Like, whatever one what your existence is, that experience of that particular dulled reflection, if that makes sense. That almost makes us sound like lesser, and I don't mean it that way, but I mean, like,
no, Vivekananda talked a lot about the mirror analogy and how, like, if you want to understand yourself better, polish the mirror.
Right.
There's a lot of references to mirrors in these different, like, there's Toltec references to mirrors. There, you're the mirror of other people are the mirror of you. By the way, I am gonna write a damn book.
Nice.
You heard it here first. And it's gonna really sort of be, it's almost gonna be like the infographic of books, where I just want to do lots and lots of diagrams to lay these things out in a way that people can just put eyeballs on and go, oh, okay, and not do it in specialty language, so that just anyone can go, oh, that's what you're talking about. Because these concepts, like, this is all I think about.
Yeah, I think that's needed. On the last video I put up, I said something about I have all these experiences I've had, but I'm having trouble putting them into words anymore. Like, all the newer stuff is just like,
yeah,
you experience it, but how do you describe it? And somebody in the comments said that's what art's for, and I was like, that's brilliant.
That is what art's for.
100% correct. And like, what you're saying right now reminded me of that, where it's like, I'm going to put a lot of drawings in it. It's like, hell yeah, that's what you need to do. That's going to get the actual concept across, because we can't really describe these things in words. My journal is a mess. My journal has reflections in some places and self in some places. And now I've gotten to the point where I'll be like, this is the messenger self. This is the regular self. This is the eternity looking through itself. But they're all me, but only one's the real me. And it's like, oh my God. Like, like, if you can get through the word salad, then you're following my brain exactly, but it's not for everybody. It's like, that's why it's my journal. It's not, these things aren't on my channel, because I'm like, I don't know how to explain this to someone else. Like,
right. And I've been sort of obsessed with the metastructure literature, of which there is a body of literature across a lot of different religions. Like, it's the super high end stuff, and by cross comparing it, I can get to the common, like, oh, this is the thing you're talking about. Oh, and this is that piece, and this is that piece. So things like Aparochnabhuti, which is the Shankaracharya Advaita Vedanta genesis of the cosmos and you, and how that all interrelates, or the Kabbalistic literature like Sefer Yetzirah, which is the Book of Formation. There's a few of them, and I'm starting to really get it all together and go, I really think you guys are all talking about the same thing, and I really want to capture that stuff.
Yeah. And I think you and I were talking about privately off of this, that sometimes you look at people who are talking about this stuff and you can tell if they've experienced it or if they're just talking about it.
Oh yeah. So
I was definitely a person, I would say, at the beginning of my career, when my channel was the biggest, where I had experienced some of it and not all of it. Like, I was like, I've had an enlightenment experience, but all I had is like the taste of it.
Yeah. I call it the brush. Brush with it. And
I thought that was the thing. I was like, I did it. Like, and now I've done it, everything seems the same. So what do I do? But then since then, I've experienced more, and it's like, oh, okay, I was only at the very edge of the water, putting my toe in the water.
Yeah. But what happened to me, and it was slow at first, was just these little kind of realizations of things like, I can't help but notice that as the magical operator, I'm the only one in the room doing this stuff. So I must somehow be the operant power here. Or I can't help but notice that all these groovy magic toys represent some piece of me.
Yeah.
Like, well, this has got to be meaningful in that same way as when, if you get into this stuff for the first time, astrology, tarot, whatever, geomancy even, and they say, oh, well, so if a planet is in a zodiac, then that means this for you, like it's affecting you. And the first thing I always think of is, I want to know how that piece works. Not the, I want to know the affectation. How is it that rocks and gas in space can have anything to do with me? There's got to be some sort of connector or something. There's something going on. So that was the piece that drove me through all of it, was like, there's something behind all this. That's the part I want. That's the piece I want. Now, you and I both went through the Golden Dawn as given by Lyam Thomas Christopher.
Yeah, and I really have a lot of respect for that guy.
Yeah, I do too.
His channel is great. So I'll throw a shout out on your channel. I'll be like, hey, also check this other channel out. It's great. No, but I guess caveat, check it out if you're someone who's been doing this stuff for a while.
That's true.
I don't know that if you're new to this, his channel will help you at all.
I think if you're new to this, this channel will not help you and will, in fact, make you probably think that this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And also, I will say this too. I finally figured out that he was basically some form of Zen Buddhist or Dzogchen Buddhist.
Mm-hmm.
And that he hinted at in his book. He hinted at it, but he really didn't lay it out there. And that's, I think, my biggest problem with Lyam, if I do have a problem with Lyam, is that he's used to that old way of medieval writing where you obscure things with allegories and things they're very hidden. Things are hidden under several layers and occasionally a blind. Mm-hmm. And little tests to see if do you really know the source material? Because if you do, you'll see this error that I intentionally made. And he still does that on the channel, which that's my frustration. I actually had to stop watching his channel because I just wanted to say, Lyam, just be direct. It's okay. We're not going to get burned at the stake anymore.
Yeah.
It's okay to be direct. And that's actually one of the things that has driven me to write this book is like, I'm tired of the corn
direct
maze.
Language. Yeah.
I'm really tired of the corn maze. Now I do understand from an alchemical standpoint that there is safety and necessity and certain subtlety about going slow, right? The slow processes of alchemy where you slow heat, low heat, evenly distributed, blah, blah, blah. And you get the subtle from the gross. I get it. But there's a point at which you could kind of go faster. And that's one of the things I appreciate about Advaita Vedanta in particular is that they do take it at a pace that I think you can psychically handle that is much faster. So Golden Dawn, Lyam kind of set the stage and got me prepped and ready. And Advaita Vedanta was like the finishing school for enlightenment for me, for finishing the great work. So that's how I kind of rank these things. And yes, Lyam Thomas Christopher definitely has a YouTube channel, but as you say, I don't think it's for.
Yeah, it's for people who are like us talking about this stuff and nerding out over, HGAs and what they mean.
Right. And probably for
you're at that point that you think that's cool and you're like up there, like it's like, yeah, you'll love his channel. It's fabulous.
Oh yeah.
But if you're like, hey, how do I cast a spell? It's like, no, he's not talking about that stuff. He's different.
No, he kind of will tell you how to cast a spell, but only in the most obscure and overarching, like top level meta version. Like, oh, what you're doing is you are apprehending yourself from yourself. And then,
right.
And yeah, like, okay, yeah, I agree. But do I do the banishing first, or do I do the Kabbalistic cross first? What am I doing? He's not going to do that. Although he does it in his book.
Yeah. Yep.
So, we're on the same page. Now, you kind of, where we diverged was I decided I was going to do his system by the book.
I'm never good at that. That's my problem. That's a personal problem.
Dude.
There are multiple times where I've had people, and this is a rightful criticism, that will say to me after years of me doing something and being like, look what I figured out. They're like, if you had just stuck with what you were telling us about 2 years ago, you'd have figured this out 6 months later, but you decided to try 12 other systems in that time, and you're just getting there now. And I'm like, true, that's true, it's fair.
Right. I wasn't that far off of what you were doing, because I think what you did was sort of recast it. You're like, I'm going to do this, but kind of my own way.
Yep. And there's some good there and some danger there. I think the positive for me doing that is that I realized that you don't need to follow those structures to the letter to get the results.
True.
That they are a structure, and that structure is just designed to help you. So if you can find some other way, that's fine. Like, you don't have to do it exactly as it is. But what I didn't learn at that time that I've learned since is that sometimes the structure is set up the way it's set up for a reason, and you don't know that reason because you haven't done it yet.
Right. And in Liam's case, a big part of that reason was establishing discipline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you need discipline and focus in order to contain the enlightenment experience once you get it. Otherwise, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
So that was the point of that. And so to a certain extent, following the letter of the law wasn't so much about the letter of the law. It was about the following of the letter of the law.
Right.
But the wheels came off my chariot when I really found it impossible to do it his way. But fortunately, I'd done a lot of outside reading, right? Just based on, so, he gives you books to read, and then those books have references out, and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. And so I would do the reference out and the reference out from there and the reference out from there. And I just happened to find some really good books that were better informing. Well, maybe not better informing, but just filling in certain holes that I just didn't have in Liam's material. Yep. And I started studying Advaita Vedanta as a parallel thing just for my own curiosity. And the point at which I realized Advaita Vedanta and this Golden Dawn stuff, we're talking about the same thing, but Vedanta was much clearer. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this Vedanta thing. And that worked.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was good.
And I, of course, did what I do, where I throw my own random shit together and see what works, because that's just how I am. I don't know. It's probably also like, think about how I didn't just use Dungeons and Dragons. I wanted to make my own system.
Yes.
I wasn't happy till it was exactly an expression of what I wanted it to be an expression of and work this way. And that's just something about me. It's a part of my personality. But if you start to understand that we're kind of trying to view our own reflection of this eternity, then that's the method I have to use, because that's how I work. If I went and tried to do it the extremely overly disciplined way only, I wouldn't have got the same lessons that I needed to get to realize who I am. Right. But it took me longer. Like, it definitely, absolutely, I've seen people who weren't into magic till they either found Frater Xavier or me or someone else who was popular at the time. And I had already been reading stuff for, what is it at that point? Like over 10 years at least, more.
Yeah.
And they'll be like way beyond where I was at, a year ago or whatever. They'll be like, hey, you should try this and that. And I'm like, man, you guys are right. You guys know what's going on. How long have you been doing it? It's like, oh, actually, you got me into this. I'm like, okay,
right. Damn it.
If I had just followed the same stuff, I would have got there sooner. But like, that's just not who I am. Like, I can't do it. And so I feel like I bumble my way to it, but I do it because that's who I am. I don't know. It's weird.
What you touched on though earlier about art being this method of inquiry, is sort of exactly what you did with Realms of the Ancients. Is that became a method of inquiry, and I think the best art is a type of inquiry. Maybe it's not even conscious, but I remember Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys. He wrote these amazing compositions, and he said that this was him trying to talk to God.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I get that.
Okay, or the great Renaissance art, right, where it's all spiritually themed, and they're just doing this amazing work as this way to try to get ideas out onto a canvas or inside a cathedral or whatever happens to be.
Yeah.
So there are people. I know that Crowley, good old Uncle Al, he quite a flawed person for sure, but
absolutely
one of the things that he would have people do at the end of the Thelemic course was they had to create a pantacle, which was basically you have to draw the whole universe as you understand it, inside and out, on like one sheet of paper, one big circle. And most of the people that I know or know of who are super interesting are the people who do try to build a pantacle, but maybe not in that way. But they essentially take a ton of information and they recast the world as they understand it. And those people include, you got Isaac Newton, you got Albert Einstein, you've got Crowley, you've got Jung, you've got Tesla, all these people and plenty more besides.
Oh yeah.
But they took all this information and they said, I'm going to just world build.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense to me.
I think because I have a background as someone who is creative and a writer in the first place, like, not that I'm like an established author, you should respect my craft, but that like I play in that playground,
Yeah.
I think my imagination is kind of stronger than a lot of regular people. I don't mean that in like a check out my awesome imagination. It's just as much a curse as it is a gift. But I think as a result, I experience maybe more more vivid visions and things than other people when I'm in these states. And a lot of that directs what I do. I'm very much more in touch with that subconscious, what's the word? Symbol-based part of my mind. And that'll direct me in ways that sometimes can lead me way down the rabbit hole in one way or another.
Right.
But because that's the method that helps me to grow and find the answers, I can't use the same sort of like more rigid structured systems that other people can and get to the same spot. I probably could if I actually just sat my ass down and did it right, but I'll get a stick up my butt about like, wait, I'm not going to call upon the Yahweh God as part of my prayers. I'm not doing that.
Right. I'm going to do.
Now I'm going to edit this, And now once you start editing it, you're not really following the system as written anymore.
No. I think it's also true though of these people that I mentioned, all of them had in some respects the same issue, which is to say a very rich inner life, like very much focused on like internal stuff, and in part because they struggled maybe externally in some way.
Yeah.
Like Tesla was not known for his personality, and that's really underselling it. Crowley, not known for getting along with people. Einstein, the only reason he succeeded was because Princeton gave him 3 times the salary they would give anyone else, right? Because he kind of needed support. So a common thing I do see, is like rich inner life, outer life maybe not as great as it could be, and that in some ways is true for me, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's something that people need to realize when they're like, oh man, magic can get me all this wealth and fame. It's like, it's not really. It's more like inner wealth,
right?
It's not really what it's about.
It's the Jungian inner gold that doesn't spend at Aldi's, you see.
And I feel like me back when I first started doing magic would have been like, well, then I'm not interested in that, Dad. And now it's like the only thing I care about. But it's like I had to be nudged in that direction over time,
There is a promise of power, and that appeals to people who feel disempowered or were in fact disempowered.
Which is where I was at that time in life.
Me too, absolutely. 2017 was like basically me emerging from the flaming plane wreck of my life and going, oh God, what am I going to do? And then it was like, well, my whole life sucks now. I guess I might as well get into this thing that I've always been fascinated by and kind of scared me. But since everything sucks, I don't have anything to lose now.
Yeah. And I think, especially when it comes to magic specifically as a path, a lot of people have to be at that point first because there's all this stigma. Like, what if demons are real? And what if you're going to end up making a pact with a creepily monster? And it's like, if you're at that point where you're like, if the creepy monster helps me get my shit together, then fuck it. Like when you hit that point, that's when you're ready to try magic. And at that point, it's like, oh, and then it's not creepy at all as you go into it. You're just like, oh, okay. There's creepiness, but it's not like that. It's not like what people think whenever they come from that highly Christian background. So it's like, oh, okay. And again, well, you think you and I have talked about this outside of this interview, is that I think there's plenty of ways outside of magic to get to these same results.
Yes.
But for people like us, magic was the way. And I'm not sure any of the other methods would have worked for me. It's like that, where my mind was at the time and what I was after at the time led me here.
Yes.
And from that, it took me in the right direction. But had I not found it, I may have never gotten there. But that doesn't mean everyone needs it. It just means if you're that type of mind, if you're in that state where you're like, you know what, I just need something to work, and I'm just gonna do it, and then I'll put all your all in it. It'll eventually start leading you here. It seems to do it on its own.
Right.
That's the actual creepy part about it. Is that
it's true.
You'll be like, I'm only in this for the money, and it's eventually you don't care about money anymore, and you're searching for the HGA, and you're like, what the hell happened?
Right. Damn it, I need my magical cash book.
Right.
This sucks.
Like, how am I interested in this now and obsessed with this? And it's not even the thing I was after before. And it's like, no, that's it. And now you're on the path. That's what happened.
when Liam says magic is not as it seems, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Magic does also tend to draw people who are neurodivergent and or have non-trivial personality disorders.
Yeah, I definitely believe that.
Because they feel set apart. A lot of them will say things like, I don't feel like I belong in this world. There must be something wrong with me. I think I come from another planet. Because they're being sort of subtly, and in some cases not very subtly, socially ostracized. And so there's an appeal for like the inner, like, oh, there's someone who's like me and they are talking about power and I could really use some power because my life sucks. And so unfortunately there is an aspect of this where it can be an unhealthy echo chamber based on who gets attracted to it, if you know what I mean. And I'm not
you have to be careful with who you listen to, for sure.
I'm not ruling myself out here. I will tell you right now, I fall into that category of people who, for sure neurodivergent, and for sure my life experiences just felt like I was the other forever. And that was part of why I felt like this community felt like my people, and there's a reason it felt like my people. It's not always good reasons.
Yeah, a lot of the people that I've kept up with since the original channel who have been fans after have turned out to have one form or another of neurodivergence in their past, or currently fighting it, or have accepted it, or whatever. There's a lot of different people that I know who are different in one way or another that are on the path, and there's a lot of people who have suffered from various traumas in the past.
Yes,
those seem to be the two types of people that are most attracted to this path, and I fall into those categories. I don't know specifically what my neurodivergent category is, but I did when I was in my 20s. I was on antipsychotics for hallucinatory visions that I was having back then. So but I am no longer on medicine for that stuff, and that's one of the reasons too that it's tongue-in-cheek that I called myself Psycho Sorcerer, because on the one hand, at the time when I first made the name, I was on the psychological model of magic, like it's all in your head, which I'm not really on that model anymore, but I completely understand that it being in your head or out of your head makes no difference.
Right.
But it was like, on the one hand, it's the psychological sorcerer, but on the other hand, it's the psychotic sorcerer, because I'm a crazy person, like that type of thing. And so it's always, it's a little tongue-in-cheek. But it's because I experienced these visions and things, and when I was younger, I did have weird hallucinatory experiences that caused me to be on pills for a while. And so I'm always, that's part of why I'm so skeptical. I'm always questioning if the vision I had is a vision, or if the vision I had is some weird hallucination. But I've kind of gotten past that over time. But that's where I was for a long time. It's like, I never take whatever I saw as like, this has to be true because of the experiences of my past. And instead, over time, I've come to understand that it's more like I use the word metaphor too much because that's not actually correct. Metaphor sounds like I'm talking about dream interpretation, but it's showing you something about yourself and about your path for whatever that's worth. And if you can take that experience and kind of hammer it out in a journal or something, and then figure out what it represents, then you get to that truth, the truth nuggets that are in what you're being shown, things like that. And because of that, now I can have a vision or whatever, and it doesn't screw with me. It's like, okay, I just got to see what's going on in my subconscious or whatever. It's a neat experience that other people don't have, instead of like a what the fuck scary experience like it was in my 20s.
Right. So the mystic swims with the light in the waters that drown the psychotic.
Yeah.
I do believe that the experience of a mystic vision, whether it's psychosis or whether it's incredibly deeply induced imaginal work, I do believe it's the same stuff. I think the condition is different in so much as, if I, like Carl Jung, were to induce that state and see what it had to show me and then come back from it consciously, that's fine. If that state comes upon me involuntarily and traps me into believing that that's what's really for real, and this is your life now, That's
Right.
psychosis. That's schizophrenia. That's like massive delusion.
Yeah,
But
and for me,
it's made of
99% of my vision experience is in meditation or in walking meditation
right.
or while contemplating something or whatever. Like it makes sense when it happens. And then there's this little 1% of times where I get yanked from whatever randomly into it. But that doesn't feel like when you see someone with schizophrenia who just buys into it, it feels like a what the fuck moment instead. It's like it never feels right. It feels like, oh, it's a little like having vertigo. You feel like you're gonna fall.
Yeah.
For me, I'll have to sit down and just like, whew, okay, we're gonna experience this vision now because I don't have a choice about it. And then I've got however many seconds to couple of minutes that it lasts, and then it goes away. And that's the weird thing I've got. I don't know what that is.
So interesting you said that, because Schizo, which is a really difficult name, she's got a great YouTube channel, and she has a schizoaffective disorder. And the stuff she talks about made me realize, like, this is the same stuff. It's just a question of how well you realize what's going on and how voluntary it is. She talks about when her schizophrenia kicks in and she's starting to have like her psychosis. There's a thing that happens where she feels like it's the same feeling that you have when you're falling asleep and you feel that weird jerk, like you've dropped about 2 inches.
Yep.
She says she feels that, but in like real life.
Yeah.
And then she knows that, like, uh-oh, here come the fish people. Uh-oh, here come the invisible cats.
For me, it's spirals and stuff. It's weird. It's like it's like what people describe psychedelics are like, except that I haven't tried them, so I don't know if it's actually like psychedelic. Like, I can't go on record being like it's like psychedelics because I haven't had the experience to be able to compare it. But when they talk about it, it sounds like the same thing. Where like I'm starting to see weird geometries and all kinds of stuff, and it's like, okay.
I'm actually starting to wonder if it's not DMT release, and I say this for a few reasons. One, I too have had psychotic breaks when I was younger, and it was from extreme stress.
Yeah,
it was grief induced, actually.
Yeah,
and I had full blown, absolutely not in this world anymore experiences. And other experiences that were just weird. Like, I thought I had died and that now I was in the afterlife. This, like, the world as I saw it was the afterlife. I have seen visions of the sky getting ripped open.
Yeah.
And creatures behind it looking at me. Those all were not things I intended to have happen.
Right.
But they came to me. So I do understand involuntary psychosis. I was fortunate in that I read a lot of Robert Anton Wilson books at that time, and that kind of helped me gain control of myself, which was super important. I've also done psychedelics, and so I can tell you it is the same stuff.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because it sounds so much like what people tell me. They'll be like, "Oh, did you?" Because I'll explain an experience, and they're like, "Oh, were you on psychedelics?" I'm like, "No," and they're like, "What do you mean, no?"
Yeah,
it just sounds so much the same.
Again, it's the waters of the mystic. You know, it's the same stuff that you're experiencing. And I do think I kind of have a wackadoo theory that part of why we use DMT in our brain is it has a healing property and also sort of an anesthetic property. You release a shit ton of it when you die. I think you release it maybe in some measure when you're under extreme duress too.
Yeah.
And I think psychedelics trigger that in its way. So I kind of feel like DMT is a lot more interesting and has a lot more potential applications than people realize.
Yeah, and in the last video I put out, I mentioned, I was like, I now understand why people refer to the HGA as an angel, like how seeing it feels like looking at an angel. And I understand why people believe that they exist outside their body, right? But the way I'm putting that, is I understand why this is a belief. And I even said it in there. Do I know that the higher self exists separate from the self or any of this? No. But I understand why that thought is out there because of the experience that I had. Because I had an experience lately where I felt like I was outside of myself. And I was able to see that. And I was able to experience that in the way that a lot of people describe it when they talk about astral travel and seeing their own body and things like that. And I was like, wow, this is trippy as shit. But do I know that that was a real as people put it, experience? Yes, it was a real experience, but was it like does it mean that I actually exist outside of my body? I don't know that for sure. What I do know is why so many people have said that over the years, why that's the conventional wisdom of so many mystics, because if you practice these experiences enough to feel it, that's what it feels like.
That's what you're experiencing. Yeah.
Right. Whether or not that has to do with an afterlife or any kind of like, I don't know that. But is that what it feels like? Absolutely. And it's extremely interesting to experience. And if nothing else, it makes your mind, it makes you have to question a lot of the things that you just take for granted whenever you experience stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Which changes your perspective.
Yeah. One of the ways I was able to make all these connections that I did, not that my brain doesn't do it anyway, but important rules. I don't moralize about anything. I accept all experiences as having been actually experienced.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that's psychosis or whether or not it's a real thing, doesn't matter. If you experienced it, it was an experience. And then that lets me cross compare things far more easily.
Yeah, that's why I can sound super spooky if you're talking to me in the right context. Because you'll be like, hey, what's Tiamat like? Because I worked for so long with Tiamat as a deity. And you and I have talked about how it seems that we attach to sort of like a God concept that is most like our own reflection.
Yes.
And that really what we're experiencing is ourselves again. But that we experience it through this kind of God form. But if the question is posed to me, what's Tiamat like in your experience? Now we're no longer talking about the heady, what's really going on thing. You're like, oh, what did I experience talking to Tiamat? Well, then I'll start describing her like a person, or like, here's what she said, and here's what that's like. And so, depending who I'm talking to, I can really sound like a spooky motherfucker, you know, like, I can really get like, oh yeah, this god's like this, and this god's like that, and whatever. But that's all. What is it we call it? Unverified gnosis. That's all like our own experience.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm happy to go down that road with people, but it'll make people think that I'm talking to invisible people all day long if you don't understand the context.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've noticed that the Ishtadevata for people, which is the god that you sort of relate to the most, and in some cases other deities that you relate to, frequently are either the way you kind of think of yourself or an aspect of self. So I've seen people who had a really bad relationship with their mother, who was a horrible person, and then they are having experiences with this female deity that's Lilith. It's kind of scary, and they're having, like, what are you working out there? Or someone who is kind of angry and resentful and really isn't having they're not able to get in touch with that anger, but when they focus on Kali, right, and they suddenly Kali can embody that anger and fury and that wanting to just cut through the bullshit and start cutting people's heads off that they really have inside them. And so it's like, okay, you're really just hanging a face on these things that is the face that you need to see at the time.
Yeah. And for me, that was Tiamat, as anyone who follows my channel would know, obviously, because I spent 7 years exclusively working with Tiamat as my practice, where that's the only entity I worked with. And I was taking kind of like visions and experiences from communications with that being in order to train and whatnot. But in the long run, what most of that was about was learning to accept things as they are and adapt as a person, as opposed to trying to control stuff. And if I look at myself before that period of time, when I was deep into the spookily magic, trying to use spells to get stuff all the time, I was very much trying to gain control. And what Tiamat taught me over the course of that whole time was the control that you have is just of yourself. You don't control anything else. But that control comes by accepting what's happening.
Yes.
And then making decisions. And that was the entirety of like 7 years worth of work, if I summed it up quickly.
Sure.
Such a simple idea, but something that I needed so badly that I needed to have this experience for that long in order to get. to the point where now that just seems like that's obviously the way things work. And people will talk to me and they'll be like, man, you're so chill. And it's like, well, I didn't used to be.
Right.
And that's not who I was. That's who I am now.
Once you see, so in Advaita, well, I guess in Sanatana Dharma in the whole, but also in Vedanta, there are the three modes of nature, which is sort of like the three powers of nature, which is sort of how the world works. And that's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So you have Brahma, the creator, you have Vishnu, the maintainer, and you have Shiva, sort of the ender.
Yep.
Like you could call it destroyer, but that's not quite the word I would use. I'd call it the ender, like it just brings that phase of whatever it was to the end.
Well, it's creating the wheel.
Yeah, and so they say that those are the three modes of nature, and those are they're also powers that you have too, because you can create a thought, you can maintain a thought, and then you can just say, nah, that sucks, and you essentially end the thought or complete it or destroy it. So yeah, one of the things that is important in that tradition is to realize that those are the modes of nature, those are the way things are done, and you in large part don't have much to say in it.
Yeah. And the other thing that I've been learning so much about, which obviously is going to parallel some of the stuff there, is how little of what this body does and feels has anything to do with you.
Right.
And that's a real weird thing when you start to crack that nut and be like, oh, I'm almost a passenger here. This is very strange.
That's actually the whole point of that, the Bhagavad Gita, visualizing. So you've got the chariot, you've got Krishna and Arjuna in the chariot, and you've got the horses, which are your senses. And so Krishna is the charioteer and Arjuna is being carried. So Arjuna is like your individual soul being carried in this body with the senses in front, and Krishna is trying to control the senses, right? So yeah, absolutely. And there's also the whole, like, when they describe what the witness consciousness is like, they'll say, fire cannot burn it, water cannot wet it.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize, like, yeah, the body can get hurt, but the body is just the shell for the real me, which is that witness at the very core of it all. And that part can't get hurt or killed or anything.
Right.
And it will bring a lot of
existed before this body and will exist after it.
Right.
But we're just currently experiencing this body, so we're only aware of this body at the moment.
Yes.
Except in certain states that you could get into. And
kids, if you hear people on the internet talking the way we're talking today, that's a pretty good clue that they've had the experience. And if you see people on the YouTube and they're doing tarot readings and they seem more like Rorschach blot tests than they do having to do with any wisdom, they probably don't get it.
Yeah. And some of them get it partway. That's how I was when I first started my channel. It's like, I had a taste of it. Now I want to share it with everyone. But I haven't even seen it, really.
Well, and
you can see that in people too whenever you've experienced it. You can be like, this person is on the cusp, or this person has started that part of the journey. Like,
you can.
Yeah, it's really interesting how easy it is to tell.
The people who realize that their tarot readings are in fact Rorschach tests, they're the ones that are starting to get it. They're like, oh, wait a minute. Hang on a minute. So it's not entirely without merit, but at the same time, I wouldn't take their advice, right? They're not really showing you the cards and telling you anything about you. They're telling you everything about them. Which is the only way they can do it at that point. So yes, I love this so much. This is the kind of stuff I think about, love to talk about. What would you say that you have left behind in terms of just the stuff that you were interested in and you probably just not so interested in anymore?
Well, it's somewhat of a problem, but I don't post a lot anymore on YouTube. And it's only a problem in that people are like, hey, why don't you post anymore on YouTube? But I used to crave that sort of validation that I still like it. Let's not pretend I don't need it anymore. Right? I mean, like, I don't need it anymore. I think I used to be like, hey, I did a magic. Did you guys experience the same thing? And I just needed people to be like, yes or no or what, like, let me get some outside confirmation of what I'm doing.
Right.
And that has gone away with this practice to where now it doesn't, like, now I feel almost, and this is going to sound kind of bad, but I feel almost obligated whenever I make a video now, instead of like, hey, I want to go make a video and express myself. It's almost like I'm like, well, it's been 3 months since I checked in, and people are going to be worried about.
Right.
And it's not that I don't like the community or anything else. It's just that I don't feel that drive to make those like I used to. I used to be driven to make the videos because I wanted the confirmation or like the further direction or whatever. And now I'm just content with where things are. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. But I got to remember, like, that doesn't mean I can't still help other people, or like people don't want to just get some validation for themselves. You know, like people are at different parts in their journey.
Right. And
so I have to remind myself, like, I like these people and should keep up with it. With a friend, when you have a friend that doesn't live nearby, but you want to not completely never talk to them, you got to like remember to reach out.
yes.
That's how YouTube feels now. It's like, oh yeah, I love all these people. I need to still make videos once in a while. What has happened to me in the past however many months that I want to talk about now? And that's kind of what it's become. But it's just because that need for the validation has dropped away.
Right. And so what you're sort of left with is, you know, what do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
And the traditional answer in esoteric circles is, well, now you can basically you can either go away from this entirely, or you can stick around and help other people.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I try to think of, like, what have I experienced that maybe would be helpful? That's why I'm so cagey now on the site, is because I'm like, I could tell you what happened to me, but I'm no longer interested in getting validation for what happened to me.
Right.
And if I have a situation happen where I'm like, wow, this really helped me, then I feel like then I want to share a video to help someone else. But it doesn't happen that much anymore because I'm kind of like just doing the practice now. I'm not exploring like I was before.
Right.
So it's like, I don't have a lot to tell you.
The answers for me are, of course, I want to write this book because I really want to communicate this stuff in the most digestible way possible. And
I think that's a good cause. I think that's a good thing to do.
And I also do my client services, which is me taking all this stuff, really boiling it down to the super helpful parts so that other people will feel better and perhaps be able to then work on some deeper issues, having, you know, calmed down all these different parts of self, so that now the real work can begin. So those are the two things that really I give the most shit about personally, is you know, trying to help in these various ways. And I still, you know, I'm doing my blog and I'm doing the videos. I really enjoy the interviews a lot more than the other format that I'm using, which is just me reading the blog and sort of commenting on my own work. But that's sort of a seed, you know. Writing as a seed, and then stuff comes out of that. And I also try to link out to the things that I think are important, so that someone reads the blog, as you did, you know, someone reads it and go, oh, there's all these links. I wonder what, you know, what's in the link.
I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, which is, and it kind of comes back to what you were talking about with your videos and making references as opposed to just the personal unverified gnosis, which is almost useless.
Yeah, almost useless. It's only good for validation for people who've already experienced it.
Right.
And that's why I'm like, yeah, you can check out my channel now, but it's almost all that.
Unless you know the secret playlist.
Unless you know where the playlists are, and then you can see all the old stuff and whatever else. But basically, like, what if I had to describe my practice, you know, go for a walk and be with yourself, you know, like, I don't know. It's too simple now.
But it's great. And nature is really healing too. So if you're near a greenway, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we know you have YouTubes.
Yep, that's where to find me. Sorcerer 2.0, I think, is what it's called still. You can probably find it under Sorcerer 2. I think that not Sorcerer 2, Sorcerer also. Because I think there was a point where they're like, make a short handle or something on YouTube, and that's what I picked. I was like, we'll keep the old channel name. So I think if you look for Sorcerer, it'll come up.
And you are going to be at Gen Con.
Yeah, I'm going there tomorrow. It's gonna be great.
And are you going to be proffering your wares, or are you just going to be
Nah,
like,
I'm just having fun. I'm bringing my son so he gets to experience all the good of tabletop gaming. So,
like the just straight to the main vein nerd, heroine?
oh yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. I am working on a new version of the game because I apparently can't stop. So, when we talk about like what am I actually passionate about and doing, I am doing that. I don't even know if I intend to ever sell the second version. That's not how my mind works. It's more like, hey, this would be interesting if we did it this new way. And it's like, well, now I guess I'm writing this because that's how my brain works.
I get it. Before we did this interview, I had done hours on a deep dive of all the words in the very first line of Genesis.
Yeah.
I had dug in so hard, I forgot to eat. I forgot to check my mail. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to talk to Joe.
Yep. And that's the thing. I work in data. That's where my job is, sort of Python, SQL, that sort of stuff. And depending on what I consider a good day is when that flow happens.
Right.
Like if I get really into solving whatever problem is happening, well, now the day is going to fly by and I'm going to end with some cool code that works really well. And I didn't even really understand how I made it. Like that's how it kind of feels when you get in that state. And then days that suck are when that just doesn't happen. When you're like, okay,
Right.
I'm just trying to force myself to pay attention and do what I need to do. And
and I was going to mention this too.
Mhm.
We were talking about psychotic states. I think the flow state is not a psychotic state. I think it's actually sort of some sort of anti-psychotic state.
Oh yeah, it feels so good.
In the same way that when I'm in a really good meditative place, that is not psychotic in any way.
Right. Yeah.
It is really the opposite of psychotic. It's super blissful and it's super cool and everything's okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you and I were talking about as far as spiritual stuff, what I see as my path at the moment, like what I'm working on, is trying to stay in that state longer. Not in the blissed out state, but in that state of awareness where you're aware of what you would call the witness consciousness, where you're like seeing things as you are, as opposed to being so attached. And I maintain that for certain lengths of time at certain times of the day right now. It's not like I'm a yogi who can be that way all the time or anything like that. Like that's not where I'm at. So if anybody has that idea when they hear me talk, they're like, oh man, he must live in this like enlightened state. It's like, no, I got to work to get in that state still. Like it's not all the time. But I no longer have to like sit there and meditate for 20 minutes to have a taste of it. It's like I can get into it relatively quickly and it can last while I'm doing other stuff. And what I'm trying to practice now is having that state last while I'm doing things that are more brain intensive, like while I'm at work or, while I'm trying to figure out how to code something or whatever. I want to have that state maintained for longer in harder and harder situations to keep it active.
Right.
And that I think is what I'm mostly devoting all of my time to now. When you say like my spiritual practice time, which is also why I'm like, well, what am I going to tell people on the on YouTube? Like, hey, practice like exercise. Keep doing it. That's the method.
The 4 books that Swami Vivekananda wrote is literally written for that purpose, to get you stabilized in that wisdom. And I would say this: the blissed out, like disconnected thing is somewhat psychotic. That samadhi thing is somewhat, because it's disconnected. But what you're talking about is more like hyper presence. It's not just being present, it's being like super uber present, all things all at once in a good way. So
you can kind of see people how they really are and stuff in that moment too. Like your judgment is kind of gone. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's just very, very like purely in the moment. And but not in the way where like you're in the moment and you can't do anything. That's the thing I want to avoid. I want to be in that state of non-judgment / awareness that comes when you have that true feeling of who you really are. But I still want to do everything else that I'm doing in the day. And I feel like that's the goal. That's what everything is directing me to. Whenever if I go ask the gods now, that's what they're like, this is what you got to do. This is the next step. So I'm like, okay,
right.
That's where I'm at. I'm at getting better at that.
I think the witness consciousness gives you a certain psychological distance that creates the safety in order for you to not view things from a state of fear or anxiety, but instead you really can be rational. You can be very Vulcan about it and just be like, I can describe this for what it is. The only other time I experienced that was microdosing, believe it or not. Microdosing, I was like, you know what? I totally see the situation for what it is. No sparklies, no nothing. It was just it was that distance. It was that same distance that the microdosing gave me.
But now I'll sometimes find things interesting that used to be scary. And it's
Right.
like there's still an experience going on in my body. That same like chemical thing is happening, but it feels like a sort of like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Instead of like oh crap, what's gonna happen? Like it just takes a different shift.
You're curious instead of afraid.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's not what I'm used to for like however many years before. So it's like, oh, okay, this is neat.
Right.
This is different.
Vivekananda talks about that. He says that when you achieve that realization, you will become fearless because the fear just doesn't touch you anymore. Not like it did. So yeah, dude, I mean, I'm seeing all the good signs from my end, so.
Yeah, that's why I've told people on my channel, like, hey, I might do a video in a month. I might do a video in a year. Who knows? Because, what's it going to be? Blog day number 47 of slowly getting another second of this conscious experience.
Right. I think it happened again for 38 seconds. It was amazing, but I can't describe it, but it was really great. Trust me on that. It was just amazing, and I can't tell you quite what it means.
Tune in tomorrow for the same exact message.
I get that's why I think in the esoteric literature, God becomes this undescribable thing that the human mind cannot hold. And I think that's kind of what they're talking about is that you really can't describe it very well.
Yep. But I do hope people get there because it's cool.
It is cool.
I don't even know what else to say about it other than that. It's like some people would be like, oh, you have to get there. It's your duty. It's like, no, it's just cool. Like life is better this way. So
agreed. And I think people have seen the change in me, and I think people have probably seen the change in you.
Oh yeah.
So these are all great things. Well, I'm going to bring this to a close, not because I'm not enjoying myself immensely. I love this interview. This is like my jam.
Nice.
So, but I'm ending it for the sake of the audience who probably is ready to take a pee break or something. So, thank you very much. I hope we get to do this again.
Absolutely.
And I want you to enjoy Gen Con with your lovely son.
Oh, I will.
And I hope Reggie's still around.
He is. He's in the closet. Actually, I can't point backward there. He's in there with the other puppets.
Right on. Everybody check out the channel, really for sure. Check out Psycho Sorcerer 2.0
for fun times.
For fun times, and look for the secret playlist.
That's right.
For the lulz.
I got too many playlists. That's the only negative. People be like, which one of these is the secret ones? Like, most of them.
They're all secrets. Find the hidden gold.
That's right.
All right, buddy. Tell you what, take care, and I thank everybody for watching this awesome video that I loved so much. So have a great afternoon and evening.
Have a good one.